this will probably take a little less than an hour and a half. If you have any personal questions or we don't answer a question, we're going to stick around afterwards and we'll get your questions answered. We're going to walk through this sheet in some detail, and I'll be happy to take questions at any time, but if we can get through this package, I have found that it answers 99%, sometimes 100% of people's questions. So hopefully we can do that. Are there any county employees here retiring? Afterwards, I would make some special time to see Mary, who's a county employee, and who has some insights that are going to save you a lot of money in retirement. So don't see Mary for county employees. And congratulations for being here. For thinking about Medicare. You wouldn't believe how many people call up and say, I turned 65 a month ago. Am I supposed to be doing something about this Medicare thingy? And you people are thinking ahead. And also, don't be intimidated. If you can drive through 7 corners, you can figure out Medicare. Promise. Medicare is simpler than 7 corners, okay? So have confidence in yourselves. But let me move to this. Who are we? Is in the handout. We have 2 slides per page, and sometimes I'll say page, sometimes I'll say slide, and don't get lost. We're starting off on who are we, and tiny little office in the county government, and our goal, I'm one of the volunteers there, our goal is to provide free, independent, objective advice about the key choices you have to make in Medicare. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're a government agency. We're not selling you anything. And if you're approaching age 65, you've probably seen all these ads and these mail and all these kind of people trying to sell you stuff. We apparently are cash cows at our age, and there's better ways to shop for your choices in Medicare. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. These are for-profit companies that are trying to make some money out of our health and our old age. Be suspicious. Don't believe everything you see on TV or in all these ads. And yeah, I'm a member of ARP. I like their magazine. I like the motel discounts. But they get $600 million a year from United Healthcare for the use of their name to push United insurance products. Be United is, it's an okay company, nothing special, nothing bad, but nothing special. Be suspicious. Caveat emptor. These are for-profit companies, okay? And you deal with your Medicare drug benefit and these Medicare Advantage plans. The disclaimer at the bottom, as a volunteer, I may say something really stupid today, or you may misunderstand me. So double check, get it in writing before you make some of these important life choices. And so, what is Medicare? You know that's why you're here, basically. What's a little bit different is the third bullet down. In your working years, you've had a group policy or a family policy. Your kids were included. What? No. Medicare is you and the government. Medicare and you. There's no policy for your spouse. She does or he does her own thing. There's no discounts for 2 of you or for kids. It's between you and Medicare. It's administered by Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, is the government agency involved. And what we're going to talk about today is your key choices, the places where you can save some money and you have to make some strategic decisions, really key decisions. The details of, oh my gosh, there's like 30 different preventive care benefits, and gee, it'll cover cataract surgery under these circumstances. All those little details we don't want to get into. You'd get all bogged down. There's a publication that comes out each year, Medicare and You. Many of you may get it in the mail or you can get it online. There's lots of other independent sources of information. On the last sheet, last page of the handout, we list some of them. And to me, that's under our names there at the top. The best one is Medicare.gov. Medicare.gov. I don't need my kids to help me with that website. It's a good website, I think. And you can type in your question or whatever concerns you have, and you probably will be able to get a publication or get a good answer. And that's, if you want the details of different benefits, that'd be the place to go to. But today, let's take a look at the big picture. And as you choose a drug benefit or a managed care plan, the good news is if you make a mistake, if you make a choice that you don't like, you can usually, in almost all cases, change it during what's called the fall, autumn, open enrollment period between October 15th and December 7th. So you can fix something if you're not happy with what's happened. The big exception, huge exception, is if you buy one of these private, they're not part of the federal government, private Medicare supplement or Medigap, same thing, Medigap, Medicare supplement plans. If you buy one of them, that's sort of marriage. That's a lifetime commitment. Don't think that you can move in and out of the Medigap market easily. But the drug plans, the Medicare Advantage plans, you can change on a yearly basis. And I was going to say the bad news about these choices is you need to make some choices on a timely basis. If you don't join up for Part B, the doctor benefit, or D, the drug benefit, in a timely manner, you face late enrollment penalties all the rest of your life. And so you don't want to waste money on that. It's important to sign up at the right time. And the other big problem is you gotta kind of shop or check these plans each year during open enrollment. If you pick a drug plan or you pick one of these Medicare managed care plans, you gotta keep your eye on them. Back to my first statement, caveat emptor. These are for-profit companies. If they're losing money in Fairfax County in 2018, they are gonna change their plan in 2019 so they make money. And that change may mean dropping a drug that you need to take or dropping some doctors that you rely on. So you gotta watch and check each fall. You just set aside, I'm gonna spend 15 minutes each fall checking the computer to make sure the plan I first picked is still a good plan. To make choices, you need to know some basics. So let's talk about some of the basic definitions. Basically, Medicare has 4 parts, Part A, B, C, and D. It's good to know that terminology. People will say, well, that's a benefit under Part B, so you owe so much. And you'll know that if you know what part you're talking about. And let's elaborate on that a little bit. Part A is hospital, bricks and mortars, skilled nursing facilities. Part B tends to be doctors and visiting nurses. Part D, this is the only easy one. D equals drugs. Part D is the drug benefit. And Part C is what's called Medicare Advantage plans, managed care, what most of us had in our working years, where you got to go to a network of doctors or hospitals, and if you don't, you pay extra or you pay everything. Medicare calls these things Medicare Advantage. Folks, that's propaganda. About 15 years ago, Congress wanted, and they still want, more of us to join these things. About 1 in 6 Virginians are in one. In the nation, it's about 1 in 3 are in one of these things. But Congress wants us to join these things, and the name they used to have before 2003-ish was really boring. It had no marketing sex appeal whatsoever. And so they said, let's call it Medicare Advantage. These things may be an advantage to you. I have a friend who calls them Medicare Disadvantage because he had a terrible experience. It will depend on you, your health, the doctors you pick, the plans you pick. But when you think of them, try not to think of the propaganda word. Think of, this is managed care. That's all it is. It's getting your Medicare benefits through a managed care plan. Yes, ma'am? Sure. Oh, yes. We're going to really stress that the Medicare Supplement or Medigap, which are the same thing, and Medicare Advantage. I know I'm in a religious institution and stuff, but my dad, I don't know how my dad knew this, when he used to tell me, Bill, chicken soup and chicken shit come from the same animal, but there's a world of difference in the taste. There's a world of difference between Medicare Advantage and Medigap policies, a world of difference. So keep them straight. It's very important to keep them straight. Yes, sir. So 4 parts of Medicare. And why so many parts? Program started in 1965, and it's been growing. It's been adding on. The drug benefits started about a decade ago. The Part C plan has been growing in the 90s and in the last decade. And if you hear the term original fee-for-service Medicare, that means you're not in the managed care. You're not in the Part C plans. You're not in the Medicare Advantage plan. Traditional, original fee-for-service Medicare means that when you go see a doctor, you pay a fee, and the more doctors you see, the more fees you pay. Fee for service. If you're in managed care, that's a whole different payment system in which the government gives a plan like Kaiser or Aetna, a set amount of money, about $12,000 a year for us seniors. That's about the average health expense of the average senior. They give Kaiser $12,000, and they say, you keep Bill healthy. We don't care how you do it. You keep him healthy. Here's a set amount of money to do it. Very different than fee for service, okay? Try to keep those terms in your mind. To repeat, stress this because there's a very different way you get treated. If you're in fee-for-service, really the problem might be getting too much service. The doctors, the hospitals make more money the more they do for you. There was a hospital chain south of us that was giving bonuses to its OBGYNs to do cesarean sections because the women would stay in the hospital longer and the hospital would make more money. That is an incentive in fee-for-service to do too much. In managed care, the government hands a set amount of money to the company, the incentive, it totally turns. And it becomes, gee, I can make more money if I do less. So the problem becomes underservice. And there's a very different tone in these two payment methods, and you should be aware of it. Part A is hospital-type stuff. If you've worked 40 quarters, 10 years, and you turn 65, or your spouse is, you turn 65 and your spouse has earned the benefit, and you're a U.S. citizen or been here for 5 years, you're eligible for Medicare Part A, and it will feel free. It isn't free. You've been paying payroll taxes all your life. A little bit of that Social Security payroll tax was moved over to the Part A Hospital Trust Fund. And so it's a prepaid benefit. And it's a pretty good benefit. It works, however, on a 60-day cycle, which can be a little confusing. And it's described on the that page of examples. It's example number 1 on the back of your handout. But real quickly, say today, this afternoon, I have a heart attack. I would go into the hospital and I'd owe a deductible of $1,340 that first day. And I stay 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. All these days I owe 0. So it's a pretty good benefit once you get past, and this number is the average cost of a hospital stay in the United States. Believe it or not, pretty expensive. But the other days, and then I go home. I go home from day 5 to, 65 days. I'm home 60 days. After 60 days, this cycle starts over. If I have another heart attack on the 66th day, it's really the first day of the next cycle, and I owe another $1,340. And then then I owe 0, 0, 0. So you could see, if you were really unlucky, you could have 5 admissions in a year, $6,000, $7,000 worth of hospital deductibles. This is why a lot of people who don't have a good retiree health plan try to buy a Medigap-Medicare supplement plan that would pay for this kind of expense, because there are these financial gaps. As I say, we try to describe this on the last page of...
We need Arabic translation.
Oh,
could you just announce?
Sure. Anybody like some translation equipment for Arabic? I guess we're okay. Part B is doctor stuff. You don't have to join Part B. It's voluntary. You pay a monthly premium. Most of us would pay about $134 a month this year. And covers 80% most doctor bills and durable home medical equipment and stuff. And as the gentleman had said earlier, some doctors aren't taking Medicare. And we hear that a lot. And there is a problem in this country. There's a shortage of primary care family docs. If your doctor's older and looking like he's gonna or she is gonna retire, you better start trying to find a new person. But there is a lot of this is us talking to each other and worrying about things. There's clearly shortages in dermatology. Psychiatry is almost none of them taking any insurance. There's a little government agency that does a poll of 4,000 55-year-olds to 64-year-olds, our younger brothers and sisters. 4,000 of us on Medicare. That's a strong poll, 8,000 people. By almost every indicator, the Medicare people are happier. Easier to find a doctor, easier to get a referral, less waiting time, easier to pay the bills. If you talk to a 64-year-old and said, find a primary care doctor, your doctor's just retired, find him, and you're in Aetna managed care, that person's going to have trouble. We actually have a little bit less trouble, but there's trouble. There's no question there are shortages. And so if you see indications your doctor's thinking of hanging it up, shop early, because there are problems. The last word on this screen, I've underlined, it says assignment. Your assignment is to find a doctor who takes assignment. 90% of the nation's doctors are taking Medicare. 98% of that 90%, almost all of them, take assignment. And that means they accept the Medicare payment fee schedule as payment in full. They don't charge you anything more. This is described on the back page of the handout. But let's say, an infected hangnail. Medicare says, we'll pay $100. I'm making this up. But under Part B, you'd owe $80. I'm sorry, Medicare pays $80, you pay $20. You have this copay. And you can buy one of these Medigap supplement plans that would cover that. But if the doctor doesn't take assignment, legally he can go 15% higher, or what, $115. And you pay the $20 plus the extra $15, and you do some of the paperwork. As I say, almost all doctors take assignment. On the Medicare.gov website, they indicate whether they do or don't. Go for the docs who accept assignment. Almost all of them do. Because think of it, 15% of brain surgery, that could be $1,000, couldn't it? If he charged or she charged an extra 15%. So pay some attention to that. Yeah. You can buy a Medigap policy that fills in the extra 15%. Yes, you can. You'll see that on a chart. The next page, Part D, stands for drugs. Again, voluntary, run by private for-profit companies. You shop on the website they've got 24 different options in our county. And you can see the premiums range from a pretty good deal to, frankly, a very bad deal. And do shop. You go on that website, and this tip sheet shows you how to do it and how you get the best deal. And you don't just go with what's advertised or what you see on TV or what your wife's cousin said was a good plan. You enter the drugs you think you'll be taking, like statins or high blood pressure or something, and the computer will show you which plan is the lowest total cost. Not necessarily premiums. Don't just look at premiums. Imagine if you went to a car dealership and you said, I want the car with the lowest cost tires. People burst out laughing. I mean, that's not how you buy a car. That's not how you buy a Part D plan. You look on the government website, there's an estimated total cost. Go for one of the lower cost ones that has a decent level of quality, and you'll be way ahead. This is for those who picked it up, a page from ARP magazine, a year ago or so, in which they took 5 drugs in 5 different states and said, gee, in the Part D plans, what's the cheapest and what's the most expensive? What's the range? I took those 5 drugs for Fairfax County here, and if you shopped, you could get a plan that covered all 5 for $5,900. Or if you just sort of, well, I don't care, I'm going to pick that one, throw a dart at the board, you could end up with a $14,000 cost for the same set of drugs. So shop. By the way, you do want drug insurance. Without insurance, these 5 drugs in Fairfax County would cost $67,000. So get insurance, but be smart about how you get it, okay? Part C, managed care. I like this page because it basically just says C, Part C, is the way you get your A plus your B plus your D benefit. And how these things work, we kind of said it. The second paragraph is use doctors and hospitals in the plan's network. You do pay the Part B premium, plus most of these plans charge a little bit of extra premium. And if you have one of these plans, you cannot use or legally be sold a Medigap Medicare supplement policy. And that's a big issue that we'll talk about later. The plans can be cool because they offer stuff Medicare doesn't cover. Like you'll see the ads, oh, you get dental care, or hearing aids, or stuff. Gym memberships. 24/7, I think, offers, some reduced cost if you're a golden. Anyway, you get extra stuff. And you're still in Medicare. Medigap or Medicare supplements, again, this is only if you're in traditional, original fee-for-service Medicare and you don't have good private retiree insurance. For example, a retiring federal employee has a pretty good plan. They generally would not buy a Medigap policy. But if you don't have such a plan, you'd want to get these policies that fill in the financial gaps in Part A and B, not D. You're still going to have co-insurance in Part D, but it would fill in this $1,340, that kind of thing. It would fill in this and could fill in this. It fills in those financial gaps of the things Medicare covers. Okay, Medicare doesn't cover plastic surgery. Medicare isn't going to spend the taxpayers' money trying to make me look better and get rid of my wrinkles. Would my Medigap policy cover plastic surgery? Would Medicare doesn't cover it. Would Medigap cover it? No. Medigaps only cover the things, the gaps, the financial gaps in the things Medicare covers. So it doesn't help you with long-term care insurance and stuff like that. Yes, sir? It's cosmetic. Now, if you're a horrible accident, you've been terribly burned, and yeah, Medicare covers that kind of stuff. But just, hey, I want to look better. I want to look younger. No. There's not enough money in the world to cover all of that. Yes, ma'am. Again, if you need it after a serious accident or a burn, or yes, in some situations, but in general, no. Or liposuction, no. They don't do that. Okay. We're on the Medigap page here. These generally cost about $100 a month, and we're going to elaborate on this. This is a great place to save money. This is all the ads you see and all that mail you get, throw it away. There's a much better way to shop for these things that we'll talk about. And again, common confusion. Somebody was asking to make sure there was clarification. The lady over here was. We have had people who wanted to buy a Medigap policy and called an insurance broker and said, I want a Medigap policy. They were sold a Medicare Advantage plan. They then went to their doctor, and the doctor said, "Why'd you do that? I'm not in that plan. I can't take you. Go away." So be careful with what you're buying, okay? The numbers I've been using today are for middle income, sort of. If you're in the 1 in 4 of us who live on less than these amounts of money and don't have a lot of liquid assets, there's financial help. There's help in paying the premiums, the copays, the deductibles. The lower your income, the more help you can get. And if anybody thinks they're in these categories, please talk to us afterwards. We have some detailed information on how you could reduce your costs. And there's, looking at census data, there's about 14,000 people in our county eligible for this kind of help and not getting it. And so if you ever hear somebody say, "I can't afford to go to the doctor because of the copay," or "I can't afford my medicines," have them call us or have them call the county Medicaid office, because there probably or may well be help. And also people have said, "Oh, I tried to apply for Medicaid," which is the state program, "and they turned me down and stuff." Tell them to keep their eyes open. Today's Post: Virginia may finally be about to improve its Medicaid program and cover a higher income level. So pay attention to that. It can make a world of difference in the quality of people's lives. And if you're a higher income, yes, sir. If your income's above these amounts on this slide 17, you're asked to pay more of the Part B premium. And if anybody's in that situation, I wish we all were, come talk to us afterwards, because we have some ideas how you might save money. Yes, ma'am? In general, no. If you're into long-term care, and we could talk, there's a situation where they could, but in general, no. In general, no. Let's talk. Yeah, don't let that scare you off of it if you think you might be eligible. Lots of things Medicare doesn't cover. I'm just a fount of good news here, haven't I? Between the Part B premiums and the... But in general, doesn't do anything with dental and hearing aids and eyeglasses and stuff. And the biggest omission is that Medicare doesn't cover custodial care, or just as we get older, we can't get out of bed. We can't feed ourselves. Or the big serious one, of course, is dementia, Alzheimer's, that Medicare basically does not cover. And in example 4, which is on the last page of the last thing, example 4, take a look at that for a second. This is an example that the New York Times came up with about 1.5 years ago. And they looked at 3 families where somebody was dying, took them 5 years to die, 5 years. All the expenses the family had in a cancer case, in a heart failure case, and in Alzheimer's. And I've rounded the numbers, but basically the cost to the families was about $170,000, $270 for Alzheimer's. And I think that was cheap. I think that was treating the person at home. If you tried to use Arden Court or one of the assisted living facilities in Fairfax County, you're looking at $60,000 a year just for that. So $270 is cheap. Medicare covered basically about $100,000 for each of the families of medical expenses. So you can see over 5 years, the cancer and the heart patient, tough, but kind of doable. The Alzheimer patient, that family was hurting, wasn't it? come up with $170,000 out of pocket. And so that leads to the next slide, which is plan for medical expenses. Plan for medical expenses. Always nice to think, gee, I'm retiring, I'm going to spend all my money on cruises or something. Save some for medical expenses. I've thrown a lot at you. Let's review real quickly. Part A is basically, anybody? Part A covers mostly hospital stuff, hospital, bricks and mortars. Part B covers mostly voluntary, you don't have to take it, you pay a premium. Part C is what? Managed care, also known as Medicare Advantage. Medigap policies fill the financial gaps, the things Medicare covers in A and B, but not D. Lower income can get extra help. Higher income folks are asked to pay more or not get as much subsidy. And there's a lot Medicare doesn't cover, okay? Everybody got it? No? Okay. Yes, correct. And managed care plans may offer other things like hearing aids and speech and all. In exchange for you saying, I'm not going to go to every hospital in the county, or I'm not going to be able to see every doctor in the county. There's a trade-off. Nothing free in life, right? So managed care can offer you some extra stuff, but there's some stuff they don't offer that we're going to elaborate on in the choices thing here. So yeah, onto your choices. Whatever age you start Medicare, your first key, major, and annual choice is, well, do you want to go the fee-for-service route, or do you want to go the Medicare Advantage route? There's a famous poem in America by Robert Frost called "Two Roads Diverge in a Wood." And in this poem, he talks about there's this two roads, and he didn't know which one to take, and he took one, and it made all the difference, is the way the poem goes. You have two roads. You can go the fee-for-service road, or you can go the managed care road. And you can change from year to year during this open enrollment period. You could switch from managed care back to fee-for-service, but see the underlined stuff in bold? With very few exceptions, you won't be able to move your Medigap, your Medicare supplement plan, once you haven't had it for a year. So once you give up a Medigap plan for more than a year, don't count on getting it back at a reasonable cost. It may be very, very much more expensive. You might get it back, but don't count on it. You do not have a legal right to get it back. If you pick a drug plan each year and you don't like how that plan is covering your costs, you can switch there, and the change is effective January 1st. If you don't like the managed care plan you picked, there's 19 of them in our county, you can switch among those during the open enrollment period. But these are key choices to make. Do I want to go fee-for-service or managed care? And this is the most important point we want to make in today's talk. So, in the next two slides, we repeat it. Slide 23, repeat. Slide 24, repeat. If you can understand and get slide 24, you basically are understanding Medicare. You've got these key choices, and once you make a choice, certain things follow from it. Okay? That making sense to people? Well, Bill, Which is the best road? And there's no answer to that one. That depends on you, and your personality, and your health, and your psychology. There's pros and cons. In managed care, if you're looking just at how much you need to pay in monthly premiums, on the first of the month, what are they going to take out of my bank account? Managed care is cheaper. Managed care is cheaper on premiums. You don't know if it's cheaper on how well they treat your health issues, but it's cheaper on premiums. You probably get extra stuff. You will get those hearing aids or tooth cleanings and stuff. Oh, it's probably a little simpler and all. The big drawback is on the bottom of this page. These are the cons in each of them. Skimping on care. There's been a lot of academic studies by professors, people who aren't trying to sell you anything, that indicate that as we get older, as we get sicker, we get less and less happy with managed care, because that management starts to feel like rationing, and they don't do as much in rehab or nicer wheelchairs or you name it. But in an ideal world at 65, when I was still running the marathon and feeling really healthy, and I'd join managed care, I'd save money, I'd get extra benefits. And then when I'm starting to fall apart, like now, I would move to fee-for-service and maybe get a little more service. But the problem with that is I wouldn't be able to take my Medigap policy with me if I had one. And I might be exposed to these big deductibles. So which way to go depends on your family history. Think of your health and your family and your DNA and your gene pool. And I've done fee-for-service because at about my age, my mother began a series of horrible strokes and cancer and took 5 horrible years to die. And I'm pessimistic about my health history. And I want the freedom, flexibility of fee-for-service. My wife's grandmother lived to 98, never sick a day in her life. Probably should have joined managed care. Saved money, gotten extra benefits. Those kind of things that you might want to think about. But anyway, this handout gives you some pros and cons. Let's say you want to go the Medicare Advantage route. In that case, pick one that covers drugs, please. Check that the doctors or the hospitals you care about are in the network. Don't rely on the government Medicare.gov website. That website gets out of date easily. And call the doctor. Say, doctor, if I join Plan X, if I join Aetna, will you still see me? And they'll tell you. Go for higher quality. The Medicare.gov website has got a really neat feature where they rank the quality of the drug plans and of the managed care plans. And 1 star probably means they should probably be in jail. Really bad. Really, really bad. 5 stars is tops. We've got a plan in our county that's tops. There's been grade creep in those star system, and I would recommend trying to stay at plans with 3.5 stars or more. Below that, there's some incompetence. They have trouble answering the phone, or they lose every claim you submit. So go for the higher stars. And if there's any of you considering Medicare Advantage and want to avoid the restriction on networks, for this year, we don't know if it'll continue past this year, but this year there is one plan in the county that doesn't restrict you to networks. That's Kaiser. It's Kaiser's cost contract. It may be going away, we don't know. But it gives you more freedom than most of the other plans, and it's worth listening to their sales pitch. Okay, Part B issues. By the way, if you pick managed care, you got to join Part B. But let's say you don't. Let's say you're in traditional fee-for-service Medicare. Should you pick Part B? This slide looks awful. I know it's very complex, but it isn't. On the left, it's pretty simple. If you don't have doctor coverage, for gosh sakes, get it. That's a no-brainer, and get it before you turn 65, so it starts when you're 65. If you join in a couple months after your birthday, there's a gap of a couple months in coverage, and that's the month you get hit by a bus. You don't want to have a gap. And if you don't join in a timely manner, and you are without coverage for 12 months, then you get a late enrollment penalty of 10% of the premium per month for the rest of your life. So 10% of 134, $13.40 added on to your premiums for the rest of your life. You don't want to do that. So pay attention to the timing. And if you're still working and you're happy with your insurance, you're 80 years old and you love your work and you've got good coverage, you don't need to join Part B. Why pay Part B and whatever your boss is charging you for coverage? So once you finally decide to retire, okay, I'm out of here, and I'm not going to have coverage because of active work. Then you have up to 8 months to join Part B and not face a late enrollment penalty. And the stuff on the right, those choices on the right, there may be a case, like a retiring federal employee, where they're offered a very good package in retirement, and gee, should I take Part B or not? And that, again, becomes a personal question of how much insurance, how much safety you like to have of having all of your copays, all of your deductibles covered. You may be in a company like the county. This is why it's important to talk to Mary county employees afterwards, where the boss says, sure, we're giving you retiree coverage, but $700 to $800 a month. You can do it cheaper to Medicare. That kind of offer is a white elephant. You don't want that. So joining Part B can be a very personal decision. If you have a company retiree plan, don't make any of these changes without double checking with them, getting it in writing, because you can lose coverage, and many companies really don't want to cover older, sicker employees. So if you give them a chance to drop you, some of them will drop you. Part D, drug coverage. Future Medicare is new drugs that are coming out, and they are incredibly expensive. The new cancer drugs that are designed to work with your DNA and all that stuff, you know what they're being priced at? $800,000 a year. $800,000 a year. Get health insurance. Get drug insurance. Another one, this happened pretty close to here. A lady told us, this was last summer, she's putting her garbage out, Thursday mornings around here, right? Putting the garbage out, copperhead fanged her right in the back of the heel. She goes to Reston Hospital, a couple $1,000 for the 3-4 days she had to spend there. She had a particularly bad reaction. The injections to save her life, 6 shots, $172,000. So always have drug coverage insurance. In that example, I think the hospital part would pay for most of it, but That's the kind of cost you face in the drug world. And if you're in Part C, we urge you to join a plan that covers drugs. If you're in traditional fee-for-service, join a Part D plan around your 65th birthday, or whatever you do, do not allow there to be more than 2 months break in what's called creditable coverage. That's a legal term, creditable coverage. That means the coverage that your boss or your company is offering you is as valuable as or more valuable than the standard Medicare package. So the law says, hey, if you have good drug coverage, creditable coverage, you don't need to spend more money on another plan. You're okay. And we're not going to charge you a late enrollment penalty for not enrolling. You've already got creditable coverage. If you ever lose that coverage, get a Part D plan within 2 months to avoid the beginning of a small but noticeable late enrollment penalty. You say, I get people say, oh, I can get my drugs at Walmart for $5 and I only take one thing, and then why should I join Part D? It's the nature of insurance. You don't know when that copperhead's going to bite. You don't know whether you have Part C hepatitis, the so-called silent killer that destroys livers. And fixing that's an $80,000 course of treatment. I think it's come down to $60,000. I don't want to exaggerate. $60,000 to fix Hep C. So get insurance. And if you don't take many drugs, just join a low premium plan. There's one plan in our county being offered that is $16.70 a month. By joining that, you prevent the late enrollment penalty and you have catastrophic protection. You can change in the fall if you don't particularly like that plan. It's kind of it's a good, reliable Chevy plan. It's not a Mercedes. If you felt you needed a Mercedes, you could change in the fall to a different plan. And if you do take lots of drugs, the tip sheet talks a little bit about how to shop. The key thing to look for are all the drugs that you list on the Medicare.gov website where you enter the drugs you take. Are they on the formulary? Formulary. The list of drugs the plan covers. If they're not, you're going to pay all that cost yourself, and that can be a fortune. So are they on formulary? And you can consider the star rating issue, and shop around a little bit among drugstores. Put in a couple different drugstores on that website to make sure you're getting a good drugstore. And even if you're not on Medicare, the cost variation among drugstores is phenomenal. I used to work for Consumer Union, the publisher of Consumer Reports magazine. Anybody ever subscribe? Thank you. You helped pay in my pension. Thank you very much. Consumer Reports magazine. And they did they looked at 200 stores, secret shoppers, for 5 drugs for a month. And they found a store where you could get those 5 drugs for $167. The same drugs at another store, $916. Same drugs. So do shop around a little bit, whether you're on Medicare or not. The variation among drugstores is huge. And Medigap. This isn't relevant if you decide to join Medicare Advantage. You can't have one of these plans. If you're in traditional fee-for-service and you don't have a good retiree plan, you might want to get one. Not every senior does. 6-7 million people without other coverage don't bother to get it. They pay this out of savings, I guess. The key here to avoid medical underwriting where the company comes in and says, I want to see your medical history and all the pills you're taking, and I want to know the last time you sneezed. To avoid medical underwriting, you buy your Medigap policy in what's called an open enrollment window. You're over 65. You could be 70. You could be 80. But you're over 65. And within 6 months of first joining Part B, at that point, all 30 or so companies selling Medigap policies in the state of Virginia have to sell you all of their products at the same price as everybody else. They can't ask questions about your health. 6 months in a day, they will ask for your medical history, and they could charge an arm and a leg more. They can deny you coverage. They can say, I've had skin cancer, a bunch of skin cancer. They would say, Bill, we're not covering anything to do with your skin, and we may not cover stuff to do with cancer because you have a proclivity to cancer. And I would have to pay thousands more or go without. So don't miss that window. That's the bolded part that says key, and very important. And what are we talking about? To buy one of these policies, this was a consumer reform Congress passed almost 30 years ago now, where they standardized the packages. There's basically, these companies can sell you 10 different kinds of products. And you can compare, all Plan A's on this chart are identical. So all the companies selling a Plan A, their Plan A is identical to every other company's. Every Plan G, which seems to be the most popular in Virginia, it covers almost everything. All Plan Gs sold by all these different companies are identical. And strong advice, all this advertising you get, throw it away, recycle it. Each 3 months, the state of Virginia, which regulates these things, sends us a really neat publication that we could send you or you could get online, that lists the 30 different companies down the side, the 10 different models across the top, and the price. Now, these companies have nothing to do with your health. They are bill payers. If Medicare will pay for this procedure, those companies automatically pay the 20%. If you buy one that covers the excess charge of a guy who doesn't take assignment, they'll automatically pay this amount. I've been volunteering 3 years. I've never had anybody call and say, my Medigap company didn't pay my... They're just bill payers. They don't send nurses to your house. They have nothing to do with what doctor you go to. So go with the low-cost one. Why pay for all that advertising and all that mailing and all those salesmen when these are just people who cut checks? This is a great place to save money, folks. If you say, gee, I've never heard of some of these companies. The ones that spend a fortune advertising, I've heard of them, but what in the world is Liberty Bankers Life Insurance? Is that real? Our Bureau of Insurance makes sure that they're financially sound. If they were to go bankrupt and leave you out there dry, you'd have an automatic right to switch to another company without medical underwriting. So this is a great place to save money. And here's where the website is to get these, or as I say, we can send them to you if you contact us. And pop quiz. Spend 1 minute. What do people think the answer to this quiz is? I want to stress, there is no difference. Once you pick what plan you want, I want a Plan G. Wait a minute. Did I just misread? Wait a minute. Yes, of course. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My eyeglasses are playing tricks on me. A, once you pick a model, let's say Model G, every company selling a G plan offers the same product. Really stress that. If you pay for a more expensive product, you're just paying for their advertising, their profit levels, the chief executive wants to buy a new yacht. It's up to you. But A. The rest of this goes very quickly. This page shows that fee-for-service is more expensive on a monthly premium basis than Medicare Advantage. But again, in terms of your total health spending, you don't know. It depends on how well the managed care company covers you. This page summarizes the key choices we've been talking about. So how to apply, page 39, 40. Just a point on slide 40. Again, I'll stress it, if you don't apply for Medicare before your 65th birthday, and you're not still working and all, if you apply in your birth month or the months afterwards, there will be a month or two or even 3-month gap in when Part B services start. So be a little careful there. And the general enrollment period, say you don't sign up when you're 65. We had this case a year ago where a lady turned 65 in July of 2016. She didn't sign up for Part B. She called us on April 6th. You're looking at this general enrollment period thing here. She called us on April 6th and said she'd just come from her doctor and she needed really serious surgery immediately. How soon can she get Part B coverage? What's the answer? She turned 65 in July of the previous year. It's now April 6th. When can she get doctor coverage? July 1 of the next year. She has missed the chance to start the current July 1st. I don't know what happened to her, but she clearly had tens and tens of thousands of medical bills by missing that. So be careful on some of this. More on how to enroll. You can read yourselves. Last points, just a couple. Please do help us fight fraud. You will, in Medicare, get a statement from Medicare every 3 months on all the stuff that's been paid for under your Medicare card number. Check it. If you know you got one of those $30 x-rays and they're listing an MRI for $800, call the doctor and say, somebody made a mistake. And if they resist, report it. Because otherwise, that's why we're paying high premiums. That's why we've got these high deductibles, is that people have cheated. I got my Tuesday ARP bulletin, protecting your Medicare. Crooks are stealing your health care dollars. And it's kind of true. Help report this stuff. I'm going to skip down to beware of hospital observation status. Anybody run into observation status as a problem in the hospital? Good. This is the first group who have not run into this. Be aware of this. When you go to a hospital, say my heart attack that I was going to have this afternoon. So I go to the hospital and I say, I'm having a heart attack. And the doctor said, Bill, what'd you have for lunch? And I say, over at Hong Kong Palace here, I had the Sichuan eggplant. Maybe I'm having GERD. Maybe I'm having an upset stomach. It feels like a heart attack. And they will observe me. They won't admit. They will observe and keep me, maybe for days, to see whether I'm really having a heart attack or a stroke or what's wrong. And it's important to know the difference, because if you're observed, you basically pay for everything through Part B. You pay 20% of every service you get in the hospital, and that can mount up very quickly. Every meal, every nurse that sticks her head in, you're paying. And it isn't a set amount, and it doesn't go to zero. And more importantly, one of the big benefits in Part A is that after you've been admitted to a hospital for 3 nights, you earn 100 days in a skilled nursing facility to be rehabbed after a stroke or a heart attack. If you are only in observation, the 3 days are not triggered. And Mary had a case a couple years ago now where a woman had been in the hospital for 8 days, had surgery, discharged to a skilled nursing facility, been there a couple weeks, and the financial aid people came in and said, "I'm sorry, we just learned from the hospital that they never admitted you. You were in observation status, and you owe us $30,000 that Medicare won't cover." Wow. Well, this got so bad that a year ago or so, 2 years ago, and effective a year ago, Congress and the Virginia Assembly passed a law saying when you are in the hospital and have been there at least 36 hours, they've got to physically come in. If you're awake, they got to talk to you about it and hand you a piece of paper as to whether you are in observation status or not. If they tell you you're in observation status, try to fight, get your doctor, your regular doctor, somebody to agitate for either admission or ask them how soon you can get out of there if your doctor thinks it's safe. But you at least get a notice as to your status now, and be aware of it because it can make huge price differences. And then last, I said we'd get out of here before an hour and a half. Last, a lot of political debates going on about the future of Medicaid in Virginia. Hopefully there will be good news that will help a lot of people. We're in the ranking of the nation's states, we're about 46th, I think, in terms of the generosity of our Medicaid program. And we're one of the few states that doesn't cover people between Medicaid eligibility and 138% of poverty. That may change. But also in Congress, the budget debates, the president wanted $1.5 trillion over 10 years, cuts in Medicaid and Medicare. And you can save money in Medicare, no question, in our system. But how you do it could change how much you have to pay and how you get treated in your sickness. So pay attention to those debates. Those are serious, serious debates. That's about what we have. Any questions, or we'll be happy to meet with people afterwards one-on-one and go from there. Yes, sir. It starts October 15th, and your coverage would begin January 1st. There are some things we could talk to you about if you really need some expensive drugs in between that might be useful. We could talk afterwards. But in general, in Medicare, there's certain times of years you can do things. There's also, in general, in life, some exceptions, and it's always good to explore them. All righty. Oh, yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. You can join Part B anytime. And tell you what, since we got a couple minutes, the lady's question, when should she sign up? Let's play a little role playing. You've just described the situation. Would you mind standing up and holding this sign for the audience? You're 65 and you're still working. And you have with insurance, okay? What should she do? What should she do? get your Part A card. Get that paperwork out of the way. It's free. You don't have to, you've already prepaid it. It's nice to get the paperwork out of the way, and it could fill in some gaps in your boss's plan and stuff. Can you be Part A? So he's going to be Part A, and you can join Part B when you retire and stuff. In fact, let's say I'm going to switch you now. She now retires. So she's not actively working. She's not actively working. She's retiring. What should she do now? Apply for D, yes. Yes, that would be good. Can you be D, sir? Okay. And, you just said something else. What did you say? D. You need D, but what else should she do? B. Can you be B, please? If you'll hold up B. And anything else she should do? Consider C. Did you say consider? Yeah, consider C. But there she is. She's got D, A, and B. There's a B, so there's B. What else should she do? She doesn't have a retiree plan. Medigap. Okay, can somebody be Medigap? Will you be Medigap, please? Okay, so she's going to join Medigap. Well, but you're seeing all these ads on TV, and you need hope that you don't, but you need dental work. And this company says it's going to do some dental work stuff. And it's open enrollment time. It's October 15th. And you decide to join Part C. Can you be Part C? Okay. You're going to join Part C. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, something just happened. She's joined Part C. What's wrong over here? Can't do Medigap. I got to take Medigap back. Okay, so now she's in C. And she's happy. She's happy, and everything goes along fine. And then all of a sudden, the doctors that you like to go to, they say, this company isn't paying me enough. I'm dropping out of that plan. And you say, it's open enrollment. I'm going to go back to fee for service. And you get rid of, you said, bye-bye. Okay, now what's possible? Okay, you want to get Medigap? I'm going to say, when's the last time you sneezed? What are all your prescriptions? Have you been to the hospital lately? I'm going to charge you more. That's how that system works. Makes sense? These are different combinations of things. Thank you all. Thank you. Depends on how well you feel about your health. In my personal life, no. I would go Medigap. But other people have had good experiences with Medicare Advantage. But the academic data of people not trying to sell this product is that if you run into chronic illness in your 80s or 90s, good luck. Hey, the new development, how many here have a Medicare card? Yeah, and what's on that card? Your Social Security number, which is a security threat, right? They are going to be issuing on a rotating basis over the next year a new card with a new number on it that you'll need to tell however you're paying your Part B premiums, you'll need to tell them about. Don't let anybody call you and say, I'm from the government and I need to know your bank account number because we're issuing this new card. Baloney. They are fraudsters. There's a whole lot of fraud going on there of people trying to say, oh, there's these new Medicare numbers and you got to tell me your personal data so I can make sure you get the right card. It will come in the mail Nobody's going to call, anybody call you, hang up on them, or call the police. Okay? Yeah.
IRS doesn't call you either.
No, yeah, don't believe in the IRS is calling. So anybody want stuff on the new Medicare card? It's going to be one of those horrible numbers that, it makes no particular logical sense, but neither did your Social Security number, so.
But it took them 100 years to figure that they shouldn't put your Social Security number.
This should have happened years ago. Yes. Anybody interested in this? Anyway, got articles about it, and thank you all for coming. Thank you.